Okay. Since I just forgot our weekday video, so I try to do it record again. For the week 3, we will go through all some like basics. You need to know some keywords like why we working on the HTMLs. So cover fundamental concept. Okay. So we will look at some syntax. So let you have a better understanding like what is HTML, what is CSS. But in really practical, when we use React.js, then the format is slightly not the same. So because React.js is a component base. So when we move on, just letting you know like what's the IP. So we're into like into the protocols we're using. So and also like let's say if like we talk about the TCP, okay, and then what's the meaning of the TCP means for, and then it would be the transmission control protocol. And if we talk about the UTP, so is it communication? So what it's using for is low latency or loss tolerance. So is it true or false? Of course, true. And then what's the differences of the dynamic and the static web page? So when we look at the dynamic and then the static web page, website pages, so static, so it's more likely just a self-contained individual page. So it will send to the browser from the server to our like client. So we cut it one page at a time. So we send the HTML like files like directly. So when you go to a homepage, homepage.html, about us, contact us, product. So all these will be like page by page. They have a static HTML file. Okay. But for the dynamic, that's like what we are working on. The like nowadays pretty common we do is called dynamic web page. So the content there is built. So when the page is request. So if from our client, when we try to get the page, so maybe sometimes from the user directly or some programmatically, like when the user on the page like Facebook update all these, so they will send a request to the server, and server will based on your request, like they will retrieve the SQL database, some .NET library, and then also some HTML files resource. So then we try to like combine everything and return a page. So this one is called a dynamic web page. And how do we really like structure the content, like even the present, and how to show the behavior? So including what the layers and the structure of the web design. So for controlling the behavior, we'll use the JavaScript. Okay. For the when we talk about JavaScript, you see have a .js file, and even we use the language right now called Node.js. It's based on the JavaScript, but nowadays like after ES6, and then even we have like different version update, we have new function, new keywords we can use. And for presentation, that means how can we show it, right? So include the CSS, that's cascading sheet, okay, style sheet, so they want control or add the image, or sometimes now we have the videos like some animation, okay, all this. And for the structure, we'll be including the HTML so what the site planning, so all this one will construct the structure. And for the new way, like when we create that dynamic website, so they're like component based, then how can we setting all the components, like we something call the preview box, if you like you know the building. So we are before we really build it layer by layer, sometimes like the manufacturer or the vendor, they try to pre-build it and then just carry it to the site and then just install it. So it's pretty similar idea. And for the fundamentals of a website, so including the JavaScript, JS, and then the CSS, okay, and then the HTML itself, so the behavior. So JS will control the website behavior. Presentation will be like addressed by the CSS file, and then the HTML file or the body content structure, whole structure will be like this. Okay, and if you look check your React the source code, then it looks like not exactly the same. Okay, And but of course we need to know like for the HTML, so it kind of like techniques we need to know. It's like it itself is the it's called the hypertext like markup language, right? So it defines all the contents and hypertext, that's what we say, and the markup language. So we'll know. And for the markup language, we're using a set of text, a text. So it will like grouping and describe certain content. So start with like, let's say the header, like we have the head, and then what the body. So like inside body, we can define the head, footer or way, and then maybe for image, we have image tag. For the hyperlink, we have the others, maybe even like div, nothing really special, but showing a group. So you can use that only find it, and then how can you list some essential able to know other HTML tags? Then you can check by more like observation. So like head, body, title, meta, link. If we need to insert some external JS files, as file, some online source. So maybe using link. So like P for paragraph, and for like the BL breaking line. Okay, maybe some header H1 to H6 different size, given a list. So all these like we have so many also formatting elements. So like strong, bold, okay, italic, I or something like this. So when we have a tag, then also one of additional information to describe the tag element. So it will be the attributes. Okay, so it giving a name and also the value. We can define HTML with a language, with English. Okay, later you will see the example. Then how can we like detect the system and then give the correct language? It's really similar. Or the example code gave you, okay, how can you detect your system setting? So you can adjust the light color. You know, nowadays if you're using Apple or I think Android, they giving you like you feel like the light background or dark background, so you can like detect it and switch your CSS. Okay, and then do you think those attributes value are they case sensitive? What do you think? So actually yes. So you need to make sure they like if they're uppercase or lowercase. So if you're a certain typo, then they won't enter it. So if you cannot take care of it, then you need to be careful. And then here's a different way to showing. Okay, so always like for the tag, it comes always like for as a pair. So when we come to the first one, tag, and then we need to close it with the backslash. Okay, and then for the value we passing most time is a string test. So we need to have a double quote. So far you will see all that we talk about them will be the last one. It meet all the criteria. Okay, and which one will be like for the largest heading? So when we talk about headings, we will using H, but for different size, we can use the using number H1 to H6. Then guess right, the thing one is larger or 6. So the answer actually is the H1. H1 will be have a largest font size. So 6 will be the smallest. Okay, but H1 is too large. Like in practical, we barely use it. Sometimes you see the H3, H4, maybe pretty acceptable. And then we have more like other tag, including for link, for the line break. Okay, so we talk about we use for one single line. So the BL will be like for the line break. But you will see sometimes we put a slash, backslash, or some people did it both accept it. But for my personal habits, like I like to add the backslash right here, because I want to make it more like constant tag. Okay, so for some of them they were because when we close the tag as well, say right here when we close the tag, so we will put a backslash. So I would like to like put a backslash right here to show it. Okay, it's the end of it. Okay, so it's the idea. And for the CSS, so we talk about like for showing the presentation, right? So it's cascaded style sheet. Okay, so both of them. So it defining some the rules for the presentation, and we target maybe some elements, so text in the HTML. So cascaded means that we can try to manage the priorities, even some conflicts. Then we can include like multiple CSS rules, and we can set like what are those importance or like it can be inherited. Okay, so all the CSS has like under the same tag maybe have inherit the same style. And when we inherit, let's say when we define, so maybe the parent of the site will start with the body, and then it will inherit from the URL list or child body. And if we have the def under it, so it will be like inheritance or the like hierarchy. Okay, and if we define the, let's say, paragraph for 16 pixel, so all under this is like 16 pixel, and if you make the paragraph to be blue, then it's blue. So everything will be like inheritance. Okay, and here's like some check example later. So CSS syntax give us like have some like greater control and also able to override it. Okay, so for the imported CSS will be lower than the lower like in same page CSS, and in the same page CSS is lower priority than the inline. That means the style defined for one single tag. So for specific, so we can do it. So here the three things like for we describe the terms for CSS. One is the CSS rule, and then second one is the selector, and then the decoration. So will be three of them. So for the rules will be like we have the selector. So selector right here, and then we have the property, and then give it a value. Property will give it like, okay, the value knows that the decoration, and then all the selector right here. So should be have a decoration. And when it comes to get the property and then the value, so it's called the CSS rule. So it will be like this. Okay. And if you have no idea, then let's say I have a page right here and I will do an inspection, and I can show you. Okay, here you see the head, body, right, all the contents, and here you see the CSS rule. So if I want to define certain, let's say there's a button right here. Okay, so I check the button. You see, okay, I will define the background color. What's the radius? So it's radius like the curve of the corner, maybe the size, color. Okay, when the cursor move on it, then it would be a pointer like this. And then for the display will be an inline block. So once you remove one of it, then it may change a little bit when you let's say I remove the color and fonts. So it's like kind of like inheritance. So I can change it to other color. So if I don't want to, let's say I don't want to put, let's say green like this. So you can address, and we have something more. Maybe we can change the link so we can observe the change right here. Maybe the color. Let me see. I just pick at the end, click white, so you see the color change. Okay, so it will be like this. So it's the CSS rule and then selector. So selector you see more, so they will associate with the rules with the like HTML element. So we see the rules right here, and then with all the selector. And all these CSS and syntax, so they will consist like the selector, the decoration block, and also selector point to the HTML elements you want to style. So those blocks will contain maybe the one or more decoration. Okay. Okay. So their decorations separate by the semicolon. So for all the decoration includes the like CSS properties, so they give the name and value. So they can separate by the colon. So that's how it looks like. And we can change the selector either once using the ID or using the dot. So it would be the class. Pretty common. So you will see if we just put directly, so we will see like dot using their class, or if we give it as an ID, like right here, if you see it from the tag, so it will be like ID, then we can like change it by their ID. So like using the pound sign, so to define is using ID. So dot, and then give a decoration or HTML. So we can using a period to show, okay, so that's how it looks like. It's a class. Okay, so if I do a dot, So it would be a class, and then if I change it to ID, and I'm using palm type, so it would be like this. So you see the differences, okay? And if you say which one will be better, ID or class, but really depends on. So if you giving one for ID, so we can only have like one ID, but for class we are multiple class. ID, that means we are using for one specific tag, okay, for a certain content. But for class, maybe you will like repeatedly apply on those. Like let's say if you want to set all the buttons to be the same style, let's say the color fonts, they may be using a class. Okay, so they're using, but for ID, maybe specific ID for a checkout button. Then you want to let the checkout button looks different, then you can maybe use ID to change it, override it. So, but it's possible you can have both ID and class. So there are multiple class together. So how it looks like. And right here, then you say, okay, for this one, so what's the style? So we talk about is inline. And because like we modify in like this tag, if of course we can import it. And then we maybe ask like what's kind of property they can set like for the color of the tag. So like if we say color, then restrict for is color. And then if we say, okay, what's this line doing? A body and have a paragraph P. Okay. So you see it's nothing because we forgot to close it, because we always say like it comes with a pair, right? So we have the head, close it, body, close body, paragraph, and close paragraph. Only the line break can come with like one single item. So if you want to have a line break, you can just type like this break like this. But for my better habit, it's like this. So it's showing it only comes by itself. So it doesn't have pair. So it make more, to me, it's much more like makes sense or consistent in the whole development, because for the browser, they're able to read it. So BR is okay for the line break. But to me, I personally, I love to do it this way. I know, okay, it's closing by one. So it's just like make the whole program that looks more consistent. And also, let's say for this one, so we have the style, close style test, and then heading. Okay, and then giving a color. So what this one like really happened. So you see, Boolean, hello, hello. So it's like really, maybe you don't know what's the representation of this one. Sometimes when you need to work on the CSS, change the color, maybe sometimes you have no idea. And then I will check the some online, like some color code. So you have get some reference. Okay, so if you want to pick some certain color, it will give us the combination. So here are the hex. So we're using hex. Sometimes you can define the RGB. Okay, so in different websites, we have different way to declare when you work on it, then you're able to know. Okay, so if you need to like use certain color, then you can. Also, you see browser can support some like predefined. If you type like white, it knows no, it knows it's white. You can type red, yellow, blue. So you don't have to really type the X code or put RGB. Okay, it'll be like this. So how can you validate your HTML CSS? So you can like check validator W3. So you can check a lot. So if you're interested, you can look at it. Okay. So for here would be the with this, I'll talk about the HTML, let you have a rough idea about what's the HTML, CSS, and JS. And when we start to work on our React, it will be not the same. But for the CSS, you will see the same. Okay. For the language we use for React is the same. Okay. But we are using the Node.js. Okay. And I will end the sharing right here. Thank you.